could count on you, 'cause in time it would come true. And you did just what you said. You said. You said. 'Cause you're just who you say you are.
This smooth voice that you're hearing is the smooth sound of Andrea Fatoma, a singer-songwriter who uses her gifts to share messages about life, love, and who God is to us as Christians. Her voice is so described as the anointed and the strength and beauty that heals, convicts, and uplifts. I'm being uplifted. She embraces life. She embraces and incorporates this into just a genre of musical styles and credits like CeCe Winans as her greatest musical inspiration. Andrea's desire is that God will use her music to communicate to the hearts of his children. And I'm sure you will want to hear it. So check her out on soundcloud.com. Andrea, welcome. So glad to have you today.
Hi, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I love this song. I just think it's just beautiful. I mean, how did you come up with that?
So, the background to that song, it started with Heartbreak, and it just kind of turned into God revealing himself to me over time and showing me just how he had his hand in my life in so many ways. And all of these promises that we hear in the Bible or you hear in sermons, God is this and he's that. Sometimes when life hits us with different challenges and trials, we're kind of tempted to doubt those things.
Mm-hmm.
But God just showed me, like, you have no reason to doubt. I'm exactly who I say I am, and I can show you.
Yeah.
So that's what really prompted that song.
Yeah. And I know that you have experienced quite a few life challenges. And we all have in one way or another. And yet in that, God being just who he says that he is to you, and you being a daughter of a breast cancer survivor. Wow. How was that? How was that through the eyes of a daughter whose mom was experiencing cancer?
Well, my mother, strong Jamaican lady, she was always healthy, strong, robust, and she was, but of course, both of them were pillars of our family, her and my father, in their different roles. But my mother she was very organized and she just kind of kept the flow of things going.
Mm-hmm.
So to have her down, that was just really strange for us getting adjusted to that. It kind of changed things around because that person that we expected to just always, if we had any question, Mom, what about this? Mom, do you have that? Mom, that go person that you always relied on. Now she was down, she was helpless, and literally fighting for her life.
Yeah.
That was a very, I would say, traumatic situation. Even when you reached out to me to do this interview, I was a bit struggling for some memories because I realized that sometimes when you go through trauma, there are certain parts of your memory that just leaves you
Mm-hmm.
because it was just that heavy that your way of kind of dealing with that is to
Right.
block that memory. And so there were parts of it that I couldn't even tell you about because I don't even remember. But it was a very heavy transition for our family. To see my father, he loved his wife dearly. They were just truly a wonderful testimony in ministry of marriage for us. And so to see him, as much as he loved my mom, watch her suffer like that, that really took a toll on us emotionally as well as children.
Yeah. And I hear you say as children, so that means that you have siblings.
Yes, I have two older brothers.
Two older brothers. And so where do you fit then in the birth birth line.
So I am the baby. How
Uh-oh.
I was quite bossy as a little girl.
And the only girl. The only girl.
The only girl and the baby, but I acted as if I was everybody's mom. In the family.
Wait a minute, even your parents, you act as you.
Yeah. So I almost feel as if I took more of the brunt of it, as I kind of positioned myself as the big sister, even though I was very clearly the baby of the family.
Yeah. So going through that time of trial with your mom being sick, you said she was always up and robust. How was it for your brothers? What did you notice about your brothers that showed that there was some type of emotional disconnect or connect? Because I hear you say, you just kind of forget about it. It's almost like trauma, because it is.
Mm-hmm.
And with trauma, a lot of times people want to just, blank it out. So how was that experience for you? And what did you see for your brothers?
Yeah. So my middle brother, he has a special relationship with my mom. He's the one that looks the most like my mom, and we make fun of him. He's kind of a mama's boy. So I could tell that it really hit him pretty heavy. He would kind of begin to detach, kind of go off into his own little world, not emotionally really connecting like he normally does, kind of going into a shutdown. So he was emotional, but he would try and kind of hold it in, and I know that he was dealing with it pretty heavy, because that was a very, very difficult time for him, being a mama's boy, as we call it. And so I know that there were times that he was emotional, but a lot of times he would try to just kind of shut down.
Okay. Yeah. And then you have an older brother.
The oldest.
Yes.
And he's really great at a poker face. He's the guy we expect to have everything, kind of hold the fort down. So it's rare to really know when he's really dealing with things, because when you see him, he's just like, okay, we just got to do what we have to do. He's the guy you can lean on all the time. And so I know that he had to have been really struggling, because he also struggled a lot when my father had cancer. But I believe he felt he had to be, as the oldest, that rock for the family. I don't think he really began to mourn and grieve properly until maybe a good solid year after my father passed, lost his battle with pancreatic cancer. But yeah, I think we all have different ways of showing, our emotions. Now, as I'm speaking, a few things are coming back to me as well. There were times when I was really angry, because, everything as it is changing,
right,
flipped upside down. So your usual routine, the things you normally do, what you rely upon certain parents for, all of that is changing. And then you're watching this very powerful person in your eyes be very, very weak. And so that was definitely a challenge.
Sure. And I want to give my condolences, because I understand how hard that can be to lose a parent, and to lose a parent to any disease of any way, is very delicate and sensitive. So, my heart and prayers go out to you and your family. I know I lost my dad a year ago. It'll be 2 years this coming May. And it's just like as if it happened last week, So my heart goes out to you guys. I want to come back and touch on that with your dad in a little bit, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Yeah. When your mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, how did she share that information with you guys? And I'm speaking, and I know that your dad was involved, But with the children, how did she present that to you all? Because what I want today to be about is how when families are experiencing cancer, and what is it that is there a fear? There's a big fear in that C word, and so what the Garnett Cancer Society is trying to do is to help decrease the fear of the word cancer. And so I so appreciate you coming on, being so bold and strong to talk about this and to share the experience, because I know it's going to help a whole lot of other families that have gone through it, that are going through it, and that possibly may go through it. And so in that, how did your mom share that with you all?
So from what I recall, and this is kind of typical in our family, whenever there's a major announcement or something we need to come together and discuss, we typically hold a family meeting. So we came together, my dad called a family meeting, and, we sat around in the family room, and then they shared with us that my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. However, because of the stage that it was in, and basically when they caught it, and where they caught it, it was hopeful as long as she could go through the chemo and the cancer treatments.
Sure. Do you recall what stage she was in at that time?
I don't recall the exact stage, but I know that it was something where, we caught it at a good place. Sure. So if we can do, this surgery, these treatments, things should be okay. And I started with the chemo, but then I think that wasn't quite working so much, and they realized that they would need to go and remove the breast. And that was her saving grace. So I think that's when it got really scary, because initially I think we were thinking, oh yeah, she'll fight this. But when it got to that point where they would have to remove the breast, I think that was we were just confused, like, it has to come to this, and then what if that doesn't work? It was just all of those thoughts.
Yeah, I can imagine. And being the only girl, what happened, if anything, within you in your cognitive and emotional sense?
That's a good question. I think I had a very good relationship with my father. And so emotionally, he was really there for us, even though he was obviously going through such a great, challenge and experience himself.
Sure.
But he was one we could always count on for the emotional support. I think for me, I was just upset with just the fact that this is even happening, that this is just totally rearranging everything that was normal to us. But I was also, I think it could have been so much more traumatic had we not been a support for one another. We're a very close-knit family. And my family, my father, my brothers, and close friends, and extended family as well, were very, very supportive at this time. Church family, they would come through and cook food and bring it by the house. And, if we needed help at the house with anything, we got so much support. So I don't think that a lot of what I could have gone through, I did go through a lot. What I could have gone through, it could have been so much worse.
I want to ask you if you had any concerns or fear that you might contract breast cancer.
Oh, for sure. To this day.
Really?
Oh yeah, to this day. Their cancer runs in my family pretty heavy. My grandmother had it. My grandfather had it. I have a couple of uncles who have had it. I have, on my father's side, I have 2 cousins who've had it, and another distant family member on his side that have had it. And of course, my father passed from it, and then my mother survived it. And so at some point, I actually accepted, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna die from cancer. When it's gonna be from cancer. I had already just accepted that. Said, you know what, that is a really terrible negative way of thinking. So I just made it my business to do everything in my power to stay as healthy as possible. I do need to do a little bit better about staying on top of testing. That is something that I have kind of fallen off with. I do need to get better with that. But as I just decided, listen, I'm going to do everything that I have control to do, that I have power to do. And then I'm going to leave the rest in God's hands and however, whatever he sees fit.
Yeah.
And just God, with whatever process he chooses to allow me to go through. But
and,
yeah, that used to be a very constant fear.
And I can imagine, it's so important for us to know our pathology and to know the history of our pathology. And so knowing that that's kind of something that's going passed down through the family genes, line, it's important to be aware of it. But I heard you say, to be healthy and to eat healthy. And it doesn't necessarily mean that anyone that has contracted cancer wasn't healthy from the beginning.
Right. Yeah. See, I think for me, it's more of a, if and when I get it, at least let me be in the best possible condition to be able to fight it. I just want to give myself a fighting chance.
Yeah.
So that's more so, what I meant by that, because absolutely my dad was the picture of health. And honestly, they both were. People back in the day when Tybo was a big thing, they used to Tybo twins, they eat very well, they exercised, my dad was positive. So, the mental health was there. Everything was intact. So if anybody was going to fight anything, we just knew it, it would be my parents.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he lost his fight, and my mom was able to fight through it. But cancer is not a respecter of persons.
No, it's not. And to hear you say to fight through it, but not alone. You said you had this huge support from family, friends, from church members. So God did show up just as he said he would be. I'm hearing for you guys. And in your place of, you said you kind of fallen back from keeping up with exams. Is that self-exams, or are you probably too young for what the government has said or signed for mammograms?
No,
well, they will not allow.
I'm actually
women.
Almost 40.
You gotta be kidding me.
I am 30. I just turned 38, so I'm just 2 years from 40.
Okay.
And
I was putting you way, way in your 20s.
School teacher, and people confuse me all the time. Coworkers are like, young lady, you need to get out of the hallway. And I'm like, I'm a teacher. It's okay.
Well, that's awesome.
The self-exams, I'm really shabby at that. Honestly, I'm glad we're having this conversation, because this is kind of bringing it back to the forefront that we really have to take our health seriously and take it into our own hands. Doctors can only do so much, and I definitely get my mammograms and ultrasounds. I have a great doctor who makes sure that he always, writes the recommendations and, tells me, hey, you need to go get this done. But in terms of self-examination, I don't do that frequently enough.
Okay. Well, I do want to encourage you.
Yes.
I definitely want to encourage you to do that, because it is important. And especially in the Black, brown community, we have found out, and I have found out doing research, and that the African-American women have the highest percentage rate of fatal breast cancer and aggressive breast cancer. So very invasive. I had very invasive breast cancer, and would not have known it was there because I had no symptoms whatsoever, and would not have known it if I had not done a breast exam. And I usually do my exams when I'm in the shower, because the water, when you running over you, you can feel more. And So yeah, so I want to encourage you to do that. Did your mom ever tell you how she discovered that there was something wrong with her breast?
I know that she does do the breast examinations, but I believe that she discovered it when she went to get the exam because that they found the lump in her
Mm,
breast when she got probably the mammogram. They
mm.
ran, some more tests just to verify some things, and that's when it was confirmed that it was cancerous.
I see. Yeah. So with your dad, I know just from listening to you that he was a very strong man,
Mhm.
very supportive, very loving.
Yeah,
Um, so you said that your middle brother is a mama's boy. Were you a daddy's girl?
for sure. Without question. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. And so you said earlier that you became like the parent for your brothers, but did you become your parents as well?
In a sense, yes. Um,
What did that look
especially,
like? And how was that received?
still try to parent my mom to this day. She's like, I am the mother. You are the child. But but my father, when he was going through his experience, I, was very take charge. I think my mom was emotionally exhausted and was really trying to be present. But in terms of finding out the facts and pushing certain things, I would request to speak with the doctors and ask them certain questions and take notes on things. And if I felt like, his pain care wasn't up to par, I would go and speak to whoever I needed to speak with, and just make sure from a more administrative standpoint that things were being taken care of. Because I am I'm very results oriented. And so I have a tendency to dismiss emotions until the job is done.
Mm,
I
mm,
think that I didn't really, there were moments of breakdown, but the majority of the time throughout the experience, I was focused on what can I do so that we can fight this.
yeah.
And I did not really give way for my emotions until, we were in hospice and I realized, okay, we're gonna lay him to rest,
Mhm, mhm.
and that's when I allowed myself to accept that truth. But prior to that, yeah, I was definitely the take charge. What do we need? Let's get this done. Let's ask these questions. Let's talk to this person. That person.
Yeah, yeah. What would you say to any young person? Because we know that females aren't the only ones who receive breast cancer. Men receive
Mhm.
breast cancer as
Yeah.
well. Well, I don't even want to say receive because it's not like somebody's giving it to them and then
Right.
taking, let me take
Right.
it to receive it.
Right.
I don't mean it that way.
Right.
But that whose body can, contract breast
Mhm.
cancer. So have you ever had a conversation with a group of peers, males and females, in reference to breast cancer and then cancer? Because you said your dad had what's
Pancreatic cancer.
pancreatic cancer.
Yeah. I think I had several conversations with some friends after one of my mentors passed away from breast cancer.
Mm,
Because I think that hit me a little bit differently because she was not much older than me. I want to say she was 46 when she passed.
wow.
Um,
Yeah.
And we have very similar personalities. She has a vibrant personality. She was a high school English teacher, just as I am. Her kids loved her. Her biological children loved her as well, of course. And she was just full of life. Wonderful person. And when I found out that she had breast cancer, I guess based on the experience that I'd had with my mom,
Hmm.
and knowing that she was, really taking charge of her fitness journey and eating well and all those things, I just felt like, oh, she's going to fight this. Everything's fine. They're going to do chemo. Her body's going to be able to withstand it because she's been, eating well and taking good care of herself. Everything's going to be okay. And I think when reality hit that she's not making it out of this, that was pretty traumatic for me because I saw myself in her, you know. So that definitely spawned a lot of conversations with friends, like, you know, we really have to start, we're getting older. We have to start really taking charge of our health a little bit better, like staying on top of knowing when things, like we said, catching things in that stage where there's more that we can actually do. Doctors can do, and plans that can be created for us to actually be able to get through that type of experience. Um, so yeah, these conversations are really important to have because it opens the door to other types of cancers as well. And like, you know, just listening to your body, paying attention to different changes, getting those regular physicals, because it was, you know, I'm the type of person, I try my best to stay away from the doctor's office. It's just like, I'm busy, I don't have time. Um, I don't want to pay a copay. All they do is a quick little wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Anyway, they're not thorough. I just take care of my health. You know, I'm that type of person, but I have to realize that there are things that you can't see. You won't know. You said you didn't have any symptoms.
Right.
And so you have to stay on top of checking up, you know, getting those examinations, making sure certain things are operating as they should so that you have the opportunity to find out if something is wrong and your body is not actually giving you clues that something is off.
Yeah, yeah, I so definitely agree with that. And I think it's huge that you guys have had those conversations, and it's important to keep them going. And that's one of the main reasons why we're doing today.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
those who haven't heard, they can take a listen and join in and hear what needs to be done. Males, did any of the males talk about how they do self exams?
No. I find that men ignore their health until something serious is happening, and it's quite concerning. And I find myself kind of playing a mommy role to a lot of the males in my life, constantly like, well, are you, you know, drinking enough water? Why are you eating that? Are you regular? Like, I'm that annoying, you know, mommy friend because I just want to make sure that people are as healthy as they can be. And I have found in my experience that a lot of men just, they kind of avoid it, like, I'm a man. It's, you know, it's just like, no, you still have a human body.
How has it changed your brothers
Hmm.
in reference to them being aware of their health and you know, doing a self exam or going to the doctor?
Well, you know, I have not had those conversations with them, but I've seen the change in their actions. My oldest brother, he's on a real serious fitness journey. He exercises often. I come to visit him not so long ago, and I mean, I was shocked at what he was cooking. I was like, "Oh, excuse me," you know, like what's going on here? Like he's grown very cautious and conscious of his health, what he puts in his body, what he's eating. If there's something that's not right or he's not feeling okay, he'll go, you know, to the doctor.
Awesome.
So that was really comforting to see that he was taking that seriously.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What would you say to your mom now from what you experienced as she was going through her breast cancer? Because as she was going through it, so were all of you guys. But as the only girl, the only daughter, have you shared with her what you felt and what you feel? What would you say to your mom?
I would say thank you for fighting because even now she says she's so against chemotherapy and all of those different things. She just hates you know, conventional medicine and everything. And she always says like, oh, if I were to have cancer again, you know, I would just fight it naturally. And if it didn't work, I would just want to die in peace. And at her age, I'm like, okay, if that, I have to respect that decision at this stage and age in your life. You've lived your life, you're full, you've seen your grandchildren, all of that. But she has pretty much the same personality for the most part that she had back then.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that she would have preferred to just die in peace. But I think because of the love and commitment to her family, she chose to fight it. And so for that, we were able to still have a mother and a father to have a full family unit through those very formative years. And so for that, I would want to thank her for making the decision to do her part to fight through that.
Yeah, yeah. It's important to fight. The fight isn't always just for self, but also for others and to provide strength, provide strength to and for them as well.
Mhm.
When your dad was in hospice, and let me back up even before he got to that place.
Mhm.
Did he ever share with you guys, or did anyone ever come to him or you as the little mama to see how he felt about what he was experiencing?
We tried not to really broach that because he was so full of faith. He genuinely believed up until his last breath that he was still going to make it out of it.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw that he was laser focused on, this is not it for me, we're gonna I'm gonna make it through this, God is gonna heal me. He was full of faith all the way through to the end. At some point, God actually revealed to me that he wasn't going to make it, but I didn't make it my business to reveal that to him.
I see.
I could see that did something for him, knowing that he was fighting, knowing that he was believing, knowing that he didn't give up. That gave him whatever it is that he needed for each day, and I want to take that away from him.
Yeah.
And so I didn't broach that topic. But me and my father, we're very connected, or we're very connected, even energetically. And so I could feel his energy and sense when, he felt different ways. I could look into his eyes and tell what he was, kind of experiencing. And I think for the first time in his life, he was helpless. He's a very, very strong man, physically, morally, in spiritually, in every way imaginable. He was just a strong man. He had a heavy, quiet strength about him.
Yeah.
And so this was the first time where nothing he did was going to change the situation. And I could see the feelings of helplessness on his face, and I could tell that was a big struggle for him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm doing everything I can, but I'm not able to push this away from me and from my family.
I think it's huge that you had that awareness to know that if you had said anything of what God had revealed to you, that could have put him in a place of despair. And I think it was very respectful as well that you didn't share with him because you could see his pride and his push through, his fight through. And, having that positive energy that he had, that it sounds like your dad had, and that positive mindset, I'm sure is what kept him as long as for however long was.
Yeah.
And so that's really important. Was there ever a personal, private conversation between you and your brothers, or you and your mom and your brothers, in reference to your dad's?
Oh, for sure. We had many different conversations throughout that experience. Mm-hmm.
What did you feel that he needed from you as a daughter, and as a family? And the reason that I ask that is because a lot of times family members, or if it's just a couple, they don't understand what the person that's going through the illness needs.
Yeah.
And what is it that you felt or learned that he needed from you guys?
Presence and support.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say support specifically, when you are in that space where you're literally fighting for your life, there's different nurses coming in, the doctor, they're asking you all these different questions, these tests are being run, you're many times just in a lot of pain or just kind of sleeping or off in a daze. You feel that is the most vulnerable that you can be. And so you're in a space of extreme vulnerability. You want to know that there are people who care for you, who will answer the questions that need to be answered, and they will answer them correctly and thoroughly. You
Yeah.
need to know that there are people who, if something is being done incorrectly, if there's any neglect, that somebody is advocating for you.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know that um, if more can be done, that people who care for you have done everything in their power to ensure that that more gets done. And then you simply need them to be there, presence. You need to know that when you wake up in that daze and you're in and out of sleep and pain, and you look up and you see, some that here's my wife or my daughter or my son holding my hand, getting me cubes of ice or whatever it is that I need, making sure that I'm as comfortable as I can possibly be. You need to feel that and sense that and know that. And there were many times that I saw him, get up and look around and just feel this sense of ease. And he never felt, oh no, what's going, he just knew like, oh, my daughter, my wife, my family, my sons, they got me. So
Yeah.
and basically he just felt like all he needed to do was do his best to stay alive and keep the faith, keep praying. That was the only thing that he had to be concerned about, because he knew his family was going to take care of everything and they were going to physically be there.
Sure. When your mom was going through breast cancer, and I'm sure there were times that she may have been very sick.
Mm-hmm.
If you so choose to, and you can recall what were some of her lowest moments, not to, just expose everything, but some of her lowest moments, and how did you respond during those times?
Oh, I know that there were times when she was like very nauseated or vomiting or whatever from the treatments. And again, it was so strange for me seeing her, because at this stage, when my dad passed, I want to say I was 34. Yeah. So I was, very much an adult, well into maturity at this point. So I could kind of handle like, okay, I know it's my dad, but he's a human and he needs us right now. But this was the first time as an adolescent seeing my mom
Oh, were you?
or parents in general. Oh, I wish I could remember the exact age, but I want to say that I was in late elementary, probably like fifth grade, fifth, sixth.
Wow.
I,
Okay.
I should
Yeah.
have confirmed with my mom prior to, my apologies. But that was the first time seeing my mom or any of my the major adults in my family helpless, or just weak, physically weak. And so I think initially I was just kind of frozen. I would just look like, what's going on with mom,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a lot to go through as an adolescent at that
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
What did she say she needed from you?
hmm. That's a good question. I don't think she ever verbalized needing something from us at that time. Um, my mom is so strong and independent and resilient. And I think that she at that time didn't want to stress us or um, just make it any worse than it needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
So as our parents at that time, I think they did a great job of fighting through this as a family without making it such a burden on us as children, because that can be very burdensome for the entire family. But somehow they managed to put things in place where we, while we felt what we felt, we weren't as in on it as they were. We weren't able to see the inside scoop. There were certain things they did their best to kind of shelter us from as best as they could.
Mm-hmm.
So there were things we saw, and there was just the emotional whatever we were dealing with internally. But there was still, even when I think back, there was still a lot that we were sheltered from, and they tried to do that intentionally, I believe.
Yeah. And grief, I know that it can look and does look different, because when death comes, that's a different type of grief.
Mhm.
And yet we can have grief when someone is still alive
Yeah.
and ill. Your mom, it sounds like she's a survivor from breast cancer, so she's no longer in that place. Yet, how would you describe the grief that you possibly had when your mom was ill versus the grief that you had at the death of your dad?
Honestly, I think the grief was more so her losing her breast.
Mm.
That was like, I hadn't had any exposure to that prior to that. So I didn't even know that that was a thing, you know?
Mhm.
And I was, I wondered how she felt as a woman. My mother has a beautiful figure, beautiful body, always has, people know her for that. And to now have to look in the mirror and see an empty space where there was once a full breast, as a woman, as a married woman that has had 3 children, I think it seems odd to say, but I think I grieved for her
Mm.
in that loss.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think what made that grief such a easy, smooth transition out of that was the way that my father responded to it. It was as if, I don't see anything, nothing has changed. This is still my life,
Yeah.
There was nothing was different in the way that he interacted with her. And
He
so
loved her and accepted her and received her unconditionally.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, not to make light of it, but this just kind of came to my mind, like Indy Reese and "I Am Not My Hair."
Yeah.
Your dad is like, "You are not your," but his wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
How awesome is that?
Exactly.
What would you say to the listening audience? Because remember, there are males out there listening, naturally females, and we have all ages that are listening. What would you say to them? Because there are some myths about cancer. There are some family traditions, especially in the Black, brown community. What happens in the household stays in the household. Don't be taking our business out on the street, things like that. What would you say?
One, I would say cancer is definitely no respecter of persons. So do your part to, as we spoke of earlier, stay on top of your health, be in the know, um, change what can be changed, um, maintain what can be maintained. But in terms of how to support the family through that type of experience, whether you're in the thick of it or you're on the end of it or in the aftermath, um, that is a time that a lot of families also begin to fight. They begin to quarrel. There's a lot of issues that come up. I know that we disagreed on the level, the type of care at different points.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put self aside and do what is best for the family unit. Make it your business to be present, because nothing can replace your presence. Nothing you can do in terms of support can replace someone seeing you right there, someone feeling your energy right there with them, someone being able to hold out their hand and know that your hand is holding theirs back. Nothing replaces that. I know for me, um, knowing that I was there for the different people that have had cancer throughout my life, whether they are still here or they passed, that made me feel, for lack of a better word, okay with whatever happened, because I knew that they knew that I loved them and I supported them.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me a sense of, that has given me a sense of relief and just calm, and just knowing that, listen, I did what I could, and what happened is what happened, but I know that they know that I love them because they felt it, you know.
Yeah.
So basically, do your part, be in support, don't make it about you, don't bring up, you know, negative things that could create um drama and quarrel, because that takes away from the person who is literally struggling for their existence. That can't be the focus. Educate yourself
Yes.
as a family and come together, decide what treatment plans are best, get started right away with them. Don't waste any time, because time is of the essence when you're dealing with something as stealth as cancer, and simply be there, be present.
Yeah.
And that's what I would end with.
Awesome. Nothing can replace your presence. That's so powerful. Nothing can replace your presence. I thank you so much for being with us today and for
Thank you for
sharing.
having me.
Oh, this is just wonderful, wonderful, and powerful support and encouragement to so many, including myself. I just thank you for it. And just as your song is Just Who You Say You Are, I can see that song, here's my take on it. That title that you say, Just As You Say You Are, is who your family has been. Each one of you, just as you say you are, you all have been there for one another. You all were there for your mom. You all were there for your dad, and you are still there for each other now. And as God says, just as He says He is, He's still there for you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And I just want
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. And I just want to just let everyone know that again, you can hear Andrea's song at, you want to tell them?
Yes, so you can listen to it on soundcloud.com, but you can also download it and purchase it, stream it on iTunes, Spotify. It is on all major streaming platforms. So whatever you're familiar with that you already use, you can just simply type in Andrea Fatoma, or you can type in the name of the song, Just Who You Say You Are.
Just Who You Say You Are. We got it. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. I surely appreciate it.